In 1982, a 21-year-old kid from Brooklyn produced this painting, a skull on a blue background made with spray paint, acrylic, and oil stick. It wasn't shown in public for over 30 years. Only a tiny photo survived as proof it ever existed. Then in 2017, it came up for auction. It sold for $110.5 million, the highest price ever paid for a work by an American artist. The kid who painted it was already dead. His name was Jean-Michel Basquiat. Basquiat's rise in the early 1980s sent shockwaves through the art world. He stood out as a black man in a space that was almost entirely white, and he made that imbalance impossible to ignore. He painted the faces and named the names of people that Western art history had left out: black athletes, jazz musicians, anonymous figures who never got a gallery wall or a museum plaque. He put them on canvas and placed them inside institutions that were built for a completely different audience. He became one of the few black painters to break into international consciousness during his lifetime, and he did it on his own terms. When Basquiat arrived on the New York scene in 1978, the city was broke, dangerous, and cheap. Downtown Manhattan was a magnet for artists, musicians, and filmmakers. Everyone was creative. Everyone was going to make it. People assumed Basquiat was an uneducated street kid with raw talent and nothing else. He let them believe it, but the reality was different. He came from a middle-class household in Brooklyn. His father was a Haitian accountant. His mother was of Puerto Rican descent. He was privately educated, could read by age 4, and spoke 3 languages: English, French, and Spanish. His mother took him to see Guernica at the Museum of Modern Art as a child. She enrolled him as a junior member of the Brooklyn Museum. He spent every spare moment drawing. But at 13, his mother was committed to a psychiatric hospital. At 17, he left home for good. He slept on the streets, in parks, on friends' couches. In 1978, he teamed up with his school friend Al Diaz. Together, they created SAMO. The name stood for Same Old Shit. They spray-painted cryptic, poetic statements on walls near SoHo galleries. This wasn't standard graffiti. These were provocations aimed directly at the art world. But for Basquiat, SAMO was a tool. He wanted to be famous, and SAMO got him noticed by the press and the public. In 1980, he went solo. He never called what they did graffiti. To him, they were statements. He found the term simplistic and reductive. He started selling hand-painted postcards for $1 on the street. One day in SoHo, he spotted Andy Warhol at a restaurant and sold him one. Warhol was intrigued. That encounter would change both their lives. Basquiat's career started with text, but it became something nobody had seen before: a visual language built from scratch. Most people hear that Basquiat was a genius. They see the paintings, hear the prices, and move on. But nobody explains how his work actually functions. Here's what he was doing. He treated painting the way early hip-hop DJs treated music. He sampled. In the same way rappers borrowed from James Brown, Basquiat borrowed from Rauschenberg, Picasso, and African art. He pulled from his own Haitian and Puerto Rican heritage. He mixed anatomy textbooks with jazz references, Egyptian mythology with trash TV, poetry with street slang. He would paint several canvases at once, with dozens of reference books around him, music on full volume, and the television running in the background. All of these inputs got processed and layered onto his work. The result was visual collages that felt completely original, but were rooted in deep research. His materials matched his approach. He used oil stick with spray paint, crayons with acrylics, undiluted primary colors layered fast, one on top of another. He built his figures by reinforcing and redrawing every line until the surface felt alive. Then there are the words. His canvases are covered in text, medical terms, names, fragments of poetry, lists, single words, and he crossed many of them out. When someone asked why, he said, "I cross out words so you will see them more. The fact that they are obscured makes you want to read them." That one sentence tells you everything about how his mind worked. By erasing something, he made you look harder. The crown is his most recognized symbol, a simple 3-pointed form that appears across hundreds of his works. His sister Lisanne explained it simply. Instead of waiting for someone to crown him, he crowned himself. He placed crowns above the heads of black athletes, jazz musicians, and anonymous figures. Charlie Parker got crowned. Hank Aaron got crowned. Sugar Ray Robinson got crowned. people that traditional art history had ignored or reduced to footnotes. Basquiat made them royalty. For him, the 3 points mostly represented 3 pursuits: athletes, musicians, and writers. The crown raised people who had been pushed aside to saintly status, and then the skulls. At 7 years old, Basquiat was hit by a car while playing in the street. He had his spleen removed. During his recovery, his mother gave him a copy of Gray's Anatomy, the medical textbook. He memorized it. That book shaped everything. Anatomy became central to his work. His skulls carry the weight of generations: the voodoo skulls of Haiti, the masks of West Africa, the bones of people whose names were never recorded. The skull strips away skin color, status, and clothing. What's left is the one thing everyone shares. When you look at the painting that sold for $110.5 million, you're not looking at chaos. You're looking at a complete language built by a 21-year-old who had studied more art history than most people with graduate degrees. Every mark has a reason. In January 1982, after finishing Untitled, gallerist Anina Nose gave him a studio in the basement of her gallery so he could prepare his first solo show. A rumor spread that a wild black kid was being kept in the basement, churning out masterpieces. Basquiat's response was sharp. He said, "If I was white, they would just say, 'artist in residence.'" The show was a sensation. He sold his first painting to Debbie Harry of Blondie for $200. Within a year, he was getting $20,000 per painting, faster than he could produce them. By 23, he was a millionaire. He painted in Europe and California. He dated Madonna. He walked the runway for Comme des Garçons in Japan. He was on the cover of the New York Times magazine barefoot in a paint-covered suit. But fame didn't mean acceptance. He would leave gallery openings and fail to get a cab. Security guards followed him in stores. He was held at an airport for 2 hours because staff couldn't believe a black man with dreadlocks could afford first class. In 1982, art dealer Bruno Bischofberger introduced him to Warhol over lunch. Basquiat went home and within 2 hours sent a painting to Warhol's studio, still wet. A double portrait of the two of them. Warhol was stunned. They collaborated on over 150 paintings. The relationship was symbiotic. Warhol's career had stalled. He needed new energy. Basquiat needed access to the establishment. But their 1985 joint exhibition was destroyed by critics. One called Basquiat Warhol's mascot. It hit him hard. The friendship never fully recovered. Warhol was one of the few people Basquiat listened to about his drug use. When Warhol died suddenly in February 1987, Basquiat lost the closest thing he had to a protector. After Warhol's death, Basquiat became increasingly isolated. His heroin addiction, which had started as part of the downtown New York scene, consumed him. In the summer of 1988, he went to his house in Maui trying to get clean. He came back to New York in August, told friends he was done with drugs. On August 12, 1988, Jean-Michel Basquiat died in his apartment on Great Jones Street. Heroin overdose. He was 27 years old. He was driven, ambitious, and worked relentlessly. Madonna said she would wake up at 4 a.m. and find him still painting. In his 7-year career, he produced over 2,000 works. He never compromised. He never diluted the message. His paintings deal with racism, identity, power, and the black experience in America. They are as urgent now as they were 40 years ago. Yet almost none of his works are in public collections. Most sit in private hands. Untitled had been in the same private collection since it was bought in 1984 for $19,000. When it came up for auction in 2017, it reached the highest price ever paid for a work by any American artist, including Andy Warhol, $110.5 million. Jean-Michel Basquiat's career lasted 7 years. He made over 2,000 works. He went from selling postcards for $1 to becoming the most expensive American artist at auction. And he did all of it wearing a crown. He gave himself.